because we have been the most fooled people. Our media have been all the same. I mean, just compared to Denmark, of course, there is political correctness, but they also have newspapers and even TV stations that talk about things. For example, they do tell if a rapist is a foreigner. And Swedish journalists would never do that. They would rather die than do it.
In Sweden, Ursa Stenius had this to say about the Swedish press code. When you write about crime, never mention, never even hint that it was a crime committed by a migrant, even if it's a fact. To understand how the censorship works, here are 2 articles about migrants living in Sweden who committed a robbery in Denmark. The article on the left is from Danish newspaper Ekstra Bladet and includes the perpetrators' names, ethnicity, and picture. The article on the right is from Swedish newspaper Expressen. Notice the names and the ethnicity of the perpetrators have been excluded and the faces blurred. It only states that 2 so-called Swedes are wanted.
But it has to do with the visual representation, like the one you mentioned there. They always blur out the picture so you can't see the person, and they also verbally camouflage who did it. I mean, what they do is that they'd write, a Swede did this, or a Swedish perpetrator did this.
6 Swedish men rape woman. Police in Finland have questioned 8 Swedish men following the report of a gang rape of a woman on the Viking Line ferry.
So all of a sudden we get feed with the fact that now we are gang raping, you know. And we don't do that. We don't gang rape. That's, I mean, there could have been, I don't know, maybe once in 100 years' time that people have gang raped.
Even though the media describes these men as Swedish, the police report reveals they were all immigrants, and in fact 4 of the suspects were Somali citizens.
And basically the media,
the media,
they
ran quickly on the fact that they were Swedes, you know. Of course they knew that they weren't Swedes. I myself, as a reporter working for a magazine, an online paper, I called the police in charge during specific hours there, and I asked for the ethnicity, what's it called, the ethnicity of the conductors. Is that what you say?
Yeah, the perpetrators.
Yeah, perpetrators. Sorry. And the policeman, he said, you know,
we don't allow.
That's uninteresting. Yes, we don't give out information on ethnicity, either when it comes to victim or perpetrators. And then when we were just about to hang up, he said, in these cases, we are colorblind, he said. So.
Indeed, Sweden is colorblind. An example of this is the practice of so-called white pixeling of perpetrators.
Natten mot lördag mördades en 15-årig pojke och en 57-årig kvinna brutalt med ett järnrör i Ljungsbro. Den misstänkta gärningsmannen är 33 år gammal och kan ha begått andra brott kort före dubbelmordet.
And is this true that the media manipulates with pictures too?
Oh yes.
How does that work exactly?
I think they Photoshop things. They do Photoshop.
When they want to show someone not showing exactly what he looks like, they pixelate his face. And suddenly people notice, because we have so many, you know, people out there investigating what they are doing, and they saw the pictures of, let's say, a black rapist, and he was shown in an alternative media, and you could see it was the same picture, but when you looked in the mainstream media, he looked like a white person. So they didn't only pixelate it, they changed the color of his skin so that he would look like it was a white person.
This is an article on the alternative media Snoophanen about the convicted robber and former soccer player Patrick Masile. Here's the same story in Swedish newspaper Expressen. Notice that not only has the face been white pixelated, but also the hands in order to hide the ethnicity. Here's another headline about Patrick. All Swedish soccer star arrested. Again, the face has been white pixelated.
The established media have been lying to the public, or making what now is the big new word, the buzzword, fake news. Of course, there are real fake news, but I would say they have done. I would define it differently. Most of the fake news that we've seen is actually omissions. So you get this perception of fake because they have been basically trying to hide the consequences of different kind of policies. Now I'm talking about multiculturalism at the core of it. They have not told the full story. So and that's transparent now because the problems is blooming all over Europe. You have no-go zones, you have rape epidemics, you have all kinds of problems which are a consequence of the policies led by the mainstream politicians and partly not being described by colluding media.
An example of colluding media not reporting the full story is the current gang rape crisis in Malmö, Sweden. In the span of just 2.5 months, there have been no less than 5 gang rapes reported. The police have gone so far to warn women not to venture outside alone after sunset. One would think a description of the perpetrators would be in the public interest and the safety of the women in Malmö. However, as this Danish article notes, not one single description of the perpetrators have been released, and the Swedish media don't seem interested in asking for one. The only information deemed relevant to the public is that the perpetrators were men. So if you're a woman in Malmö, be on the lookout for men.
There's a big difference between the journalists now and from like 30 years ago. They have all, they are part of the upper class, upper middle class at least. They have, a lot of big salaries, and a lot of them go into politics, and so they have been an integrated part of the elite for the last 25 years in Europe. So they're out of touch with the people they should actually be in touch with.
They always portray multiculturalism as fantastic, and the media themselves never live in these areas. They always live in a Swedish setting, nice suburbia, far away from the multicultural hell that they're trying to make people like.
Indeed, far away from multicultural urban centers plagued by riots and gang rapes. We have journalist and Open Borders activist Robert Aschberg. We interviewed him for the film in his summer house located in the exclusive town of Furesund. He showed us around his 5-acre property, which included a private harbor.
The notion, or what they call no-go zones, is just bullshit.
And yet, police stations are being attacked with hand grenades in these non-existent no-go zones. However, Robert is not alone in his denial of mass immigration and its consequences on Swedish society. Hundreds of journalists, actors, and politicians have proclaimed that Sweden has enough room for everyone, yet 90% of these elitists lived in exclusive areas with lowest amount of migrants.
And this is the hypocrisy of the media. They try to put it on like, you must love multiculturalism, you must love mass immigration, but we're gonna live somewhere where there's only Swedes.
So I guess it's pretty easy to talk about tolerance and multicultural and what have you not when you live in a place like this, pretty detached from the realities in the suburbs of Stockholm and Malmö and Örebro and all these places. Not too many riots going on around here, I'm pretty sure of that. And I'm pretty sure that there's not too many people called Mohammed around here either, so yeah, I see what they're saying.